They're here. I grew up with that sound scaring the dickens out of me. I think many of you know what it is without any explanation. It comes from the movie Poltergeist, but of course, the movies aren't always reality, and most of the times they're probably not. But we're here tonight to talk about Poltergeist. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. I spent 20 years as a licensed minister. I'm a Bible college graduate. I have over 100,000 hours of study in the biblical scriptures, and I have over 30 years experience as an exorcist dealing with what you would call ghosts or demons, and I have dealt with my share of poltergeists. So tonight, we're going to talk about poltergeists, but we're not going to talk about just the normal stuff about poltergeists. We're going to look into the depths. We're going to look into examples. We're going to look at cross-cultural, transcultural happenings of poltergeists. And I think I've discovered a key to understanding what poltergeists truly are. So with that, let's go ahead and look at the data. But before we look at the data, I want you to help me. And I want you to help me help you by going to my website, clicking on this Mystech logo, reading about the Mystech. I wear 8 of them, 4 on each arm. They allow me to sleep half the time, get twice the rest, and be much more effective in my daily life and in my spiritual work. Over 90% of the people that are purchasing them are buying more. I get a little piece of it, so you get a great change of life. We're changing the world one band at a time, and it allows me to go and do things and bring you high-quality programs. So please check out the Mystech. And one thing I want you to make sure of, if you don't see this Mystech Bands by Jeffrey Daugherty, then you are not helping me, and you're not getting 20% off. A question on Periscope, Twitter, Facebook. Is there any possibility Obama has a demon possession? I say there's a very distinct possibility that Barack Hussein Obama does have a demonic possession. So yes, I would say there's a very distinct possibility of that. And that's my opinion. That's my professional opinion as a trained exorcist. So there you go. Hello, Michelle Thompson. Nice to see you. And let's take a look. Poltergeist basically means, it's a German word. I spent 3 years living in Germany. Poltergeist means noisy ghost or noisy spirit, basically. And it's a type of ghost or a spirit that's responsible for physical disturbances, loud noises, objects being thrown around, or even destroyed. Now, allegedly, they're capable of pinching, biting, and even tripping people, levitation of objects, knocking on doors. They're troublesome spirits. And they tend to haunt locations, and they also haunt people. Now, I have personally experienced that the actual biting, pinching of people, hitting people, tripping people, those are few and far between, because the energetic juice needed to do that is very extremely high. But it does happen, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that it is rare. So the poltergeists, many of them have proven to be hoaxes, and many of them have, in fact, Frank Podmore, a researcher, found what he called the naughty little girl theory. That was just that sometimes. Children throwing things around when their parents weren't looking and causing it to be reported as a poltergeist. And according to anomalistic psychology, which means anomalies in your psychological makeup, poltergeist activity can be explained by psychological factors such as illusion, memory lapses, and wishful thinking. Unfortunately, there's a person in my family right now whose memory span literally is about 3 minutes. So they could throw something, knock something over, not remember doing it 5 minutes later and think, oh my, there's a poltergeist in the house. Not that they would, But there was a study done by Lang and Horan in 1998, and they concluded that poltergeist experiences are delusions resulting from affective and cognitive dynamics of the percipient's interpretation of ambiguous stimuli. In other words, they think you're crazy. Psychologist Donovan Rawcliffe wrote that almost all poltergeist cases that have been investigated turned out to be based on trickery or psychological factors such as hallucinations. Now, there have been some that have resulted in unverified natural phenomena that cannot be explained. Now, sometimes there could be some of the things can be explained by other natural phenomena like water running beneath structures, train tracks, vibration from aircraft. So there's many things that we have to keep in mind when we learn and understand and consider poltergeists. Something else as we moved into the paranormal realm, parapsychologists Nandor Fedor and William G. Roll have suggested in their work Between Two Worlds and Hauntings and Poltergeists Multidisciplinary Perspectives, they've suggested that many times what we think are poltergeists are very simply psychokinesis. What is psychokinesis? That's the case of people that can move things with their mind. So it may not really be a poltergeist. It might just be, we're kind of back to the naughty little girl phenomena, only the little girl maybe not even know. She might not even realize. She might not even understand, or maybe she knows exactly what she's doing. And of course, it can be a little boy as well. But psychokinesis, to me, makes a lot of sense. And there's one more thing that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to say there's two big things that make great sense for me with poltergeist activity. I think a lot of it can be explained by psychological factors. A lot of it can be explained by just getting things wrong. A lot of it can be explained by natural factors that are contributing something that looks like it is a supernatural event. And I believe that psychokinesis, or people wittingly or unwittingly moving things through their psychic power, can make up a great deal of what we see as poltergeist phenomenon. I want to tell you about some famous poltergeist cases. And again, one of the reasons why this interests me so is that it is transcultural. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, poltergeist and poltergeist activity have been reported in many cultures and countries: the United States, India, Japan, Brazil, Australia, most European nations, and they've been reported all the way back to the 1st century. And were they not reported in the Bible? When the king of Babylon was having a party, and what happened? A hand appeared, and it wrote on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, you've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Writing on a wall. Is that not some type of a form of poltergeist activity? Couldn't we maybe suggest that? In 1654, there was the Glenus Devil, a mathematics professor at Glasgow University, known for Satan's invisible works. He wrote an account of the Glenus Devil, a poltergeist case from 1654. So we're going way back. The drummer of Tedworth, a local landowner, keep that in mind, was the owner of a house that he built, and he was plagued with drumming noises on his roof during the night. The Mackey poltergeist, that was in Galloway. It was also in the Scottish Isles. You've got the Epworth Rectory, the Hinton, Ampner, Stockwell ghosts, and there's about 20 or 30 of them. So there's a lot of these things, and as I look at them, I find something that rings true to me, something that was said by Allan Kardec, who was the founder of Spiritism. And Spiritism was a spiritualist philosophy codified in the 19th century. It produced a study of the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits and their relation with the corporeal world. Spiritism is represented today in 35 countries by the International Spiritist Council, including the U.S., UK, Uruguay, Sweden, Spain, Portugal, Peru, Paraguay, Norway, Mexico, Japan, Italy, Guatemala, France, Colombia, Belgium, Brazil, and Argentina. So a lot of thinking people are thinking about this, and his book was called The Spirit's Book, and it distinguishes Spiritism from spiritualism. I'm going to write that down and get that book, The Spirit's Book, by Kardec, K-A-R-D-E-C. He made what I think a phenomenal discovery, and I think it's the other great explanation of what happens with and in poltergeist activities. This gentleman wrote, a man named actually Michael Goss reported in a book called Poltergeists, an annotated bibliography of works in English. He noted that Allan Kardec, the founder of Spiritism, alleged that poltergeists were malicious spirits and that they were disembodied, low-level spirits, i.e., they were closely associated with the elements air, water, fire, earth. This was in the French version of his book, Les Livres des Espirites, in 2000, I believe. Or at least that was printed in 2000, that book. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it makes perfect sense. As I study through these different cases, and there's there's 30 of them that I studied through. Birmingham, England. There's a black monk. There's a poltergeist. Let me just read you these names. The Glenus Devil, the drummer of Tedworth, Mackey Poltergeist, Epworth Rectory, Hinton Ampner, Stockwell Ghost, Sanford Prevel, the Bell Witch of Tennessee, Beeling's Bells, Angelique Cotton, Balakin House, the Great Amherst Mystery, Caledonia Mills, Jeff the Talking Mongoose, Jeff the Talking Mongoose, or the Dalby Spook. That's interesting. Was a name given to a talking mongoose, which inhabited a farmhouse owned by the Irving family, located at Cashin's Gap near Dalby on the Isle of Man. A talking mongoose. Wow, that's interesting. A talking mongoose. The old rectory in Epworth, Lincolnshire, is a site of supposed paranormal events in 1716. Wow. The Hinton Ampner House is a stately home with gardens within the civil parish of Bramdean and Hinton near Hampshire, England. And they had a series of poltergeist claims so bad that the house was actually pulled down in 1793. This was written about in the book Poltergeist over England. Wow. Amazing stuff. I'm amazed by this. The Stockwell Ghost, a poltergeist disturbance in Stockwell that occurred 1772. Amazing stuff. Sanford Peverell, Mid Devon, England, 1836. The Bell Witch of Tennessee, Southern folklore, 19th century Bell family of Adams, Tennessee. He came under attack by an invisible entity able to speak, affect the physical environment. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Going back to our early show, it could shapeshift or metamorphose. I can't go through all of these because you'll get very upset with me if I do. Hindu. This is a story of Edward Moore of a Hindu poltergeist from an English dude in India where he shouldn't have been, which leads me right into, and I'm going to stop there, leads me right into talking about poltergeists as elementals, because in a lot of these cases, these were cases where people were building, infringing upon areas where people had not been, new houses, going into India, things like that. And if someone were to move into your domain and start tearing things down and building things on it and taking over, how would you react? It makes perfect sense to me that elemental spirits might react negatively against the incursion of human activity into their domain. Makes perfect sense to me. In fact, I'd probably do it myself. So before we get upset at the poltergeist, before we get upset and think poltergeists are demons and trying to harm us, maybe we should consider what is taking place on a spiritual and a holistic level. And most of the time, they're just trying to scare you away. They're not trying to hurt you, so they could be doing a whole lot more. So I think that it might behoove us to start looking, start thinking, start pondering outside the traditional box. And again, it shows why poltergeists are pictured in movies, comics, television, popular entertainment as bad, demonic, horrible things that run us out, when really the truth might be that we're the invaders. The truth might be that we're the rascals, and that these spirits have every right to be upset. I might humbly suggest that you reach an agreement with them. I know that we moved in here, but I just spent $100,000, $200,000 building this house. I'm not going to tear it down. I understand it's where you live. How about you live here quietly and peacefully, and we'll live here quietly and peacefully, and we can work things out. I've done this many times in spiritual work. If a entity wanted to stay in a place and it wasn't bothering anybody, it wasn't doing anybody any harm, I let them stay. Now, I know some of you will get all upset about that, but hey, they were there before we were. They'll probably be there after we are. Something to think about. Poltergeist as psychokinetic activity, witting or unwitting, and poltergeists as elemental spirits. If they don't want you there, well, somebody's got to go. And we're going to see who's got the most spiritual juice to make that happen. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. And I'm encouraging you to think outside the box. I'm encouraging you to guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. I'm encouraging you to ask questions and question answers. You are the Gospel Truth Army. I salute you. And I encourage you to march on fearlessly. It takes about a week to get your Mystech orders shipped. You sit back and wait patiently. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We'll see you again next time.